when the famous Chinese actor Yu Menglong fell from a Beijing building in September 2025. It took authorities just 12 hours to call it an accident and close the case. But his friends noticed something strange. In his final live stream before he passed, he was making hand signals. The 540 distress signal, specifically designed for people who are in danger but can't speak freely. Viewers recorded the stream before it was deleted. They saw the bruises. They heard him say that if something happened to him, people shouldn't believe it was an accident. And now, as the Chinese government works very hard to erase every trace of his existence, one question keeps haunting millions of people worldwide. If this is really just a tragic accident, why are they trying so hard to make everyone forget it ever happened? Thanks for clicking on this video, and please like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to stay updated with our latest videos. Also, drop a comment sharing where you're watching from. Let's see which country has the most viewers. When someone passes away in Beijing, you expect sadness, flowers, tributes. But when 37-year-old actor Yu Menglong, known to millions as Alan Yu, fell from a building on September 11th, 2025, something different happened. Within hours, his name started disappearing from the internet. Not slowly, but systematically, as if someone was erasing him from existence. His fans tried to mourn him online, and they watched their posts vanish in real time. They uploaded tributes, only to see them deleted minutes later. They searched his name on social media platforms, only to find the search function had been disabled. It was as if the grief of millions didn't matter, as if Yu Menglong had never existed at all. But here's what makes this story different from every other celebrity case you've heard about. The harder authorities tried to silence the conversation, the louder people screamed for answers, because the official story, the one police released just 12 hours after his body was discovered, didn't add up. Not even close. And what started as questions about one man's ending became something much bigger. A window into a world where power, corruption, and silence create a darkness most people never see. Let's go back to the beginning, before the fall, before the censorship, before everything unraveled. Because to understand what happened to Yu Menglong, you need to know who he was when he was still alive. Yu Menglong was born on June 15, 1988, in Urumqi, a city in Xinjiang, in western China. His childhood wasn't glamorous or privileged. His single mother taught him music and encouraged his love for singing. He was described by teachers and friends as quiet, yet disciplined, often expressing a strong wish to give his mother a better life because she raised him alone after his father left. From a young age, he knew he wanted to perform. He studied at the affiliated high school of the Beijing Contemporary Music Academy, then graduated from the Beijing Performing Arts Training College. While his classmates dreamed of fame, Yu approached his craft differently. He was quiet, reserved, intensely private. He didn't seek the spotlight for attention. He sought it because he genuinely loved the art of storytelling. His first real taste of public recognition came in 2007 when he competed in Dragon Television's talent show called My Show. He advanced to the top 16 in the Xi'an division, which was impressive for a teenager from Xinjiang with no industry connections. But he didn't win, and for most people, that would have been the end of the dream. He didn't quit, though. In 2010, he tried again, this time on Hunan Television's Superboy competition, China's version of American Idol. He finished in the top 5 of the Sohu Online Direct Pass division and joined a trainee boy group called Happy Boy Group 8090. It still wasn't the breakthrough he needed, but he kept going. Then, in 2013, he returned to Superboy for a third time. This time, something clicked. He won the Beijing division and ranked 10th nationwide. That's when Tianyu Media, also known as E-Media, a state-owned talent agency, signed him to a contract. It should have been the beginning of his dream. Instead, it became the beginning of something he didn't prepare for. At first, everything seemed fine. In 2015, Yu got his breakout role playing the ninth prince in a historical web drama called Go Princess Go. The show became a cultural phenomenon across China and Asia, catapulting him into stardom almost overnight. Fans loved his charm, his boyish good looks, and the way he brought emotional depth to his characters. That same year, he released his first album, Toy, which showcased his vocal range and personal style. For a moment, it seemed like all his hard work was finally paying off. Then came 2017, and with it, the role that would define his career. Yu starred as Beijing in Eternal Love, a fantasy romance drama that became a massive hit, both in China and internationally. He acted alongside major stars like Yang Mi and Dilraba Dilmurat, and his portrayal of the loyal, protective older brother earned him widespread praise. By the end of 2017, Yu Menglong was a household name, with over 27 million followers on Weibo, the China's equivalent of Twitter. But behind the success, something didn't seem right. People close to Yu said he seemed trapped. Despite his fame, he had little control over his own career. Tianyu Media held him under restrictive contracts that allegedly prevented him from making his own decisions. Even when major opportunities came along, he couldn't pursue them. There's a story that illustrates this perfectly. Actress Yang Mi, who had starred alongside Yu in Eternal Love, personally tried to sign him to her own agency 3 times. She traveled to Beijing, made offers, tried to negotiate. Each time, Tianyu Media refused to release him. Yang Mi was one of the most powerful actresses in China, and even she couldn't break through the wall of state capital and political power that shielded the company. Think about that for a moment. A superstar couldn't help a friend escape a contract. That's not normal business. That's control. Yu continued working, though. In 2019, he starred in The Legend of White Snake, playing the lead role of Shu Xian. He also appeared in workplace dramas and sports dramas, showcasing his versatility. In 2020, he took on roles in historical dramas like The Love Lasts Two Minds and The Moon Brightens for You. By all appearances, his career was thriving. But people who knew him said something had changed. Yu, who was usually warm and approachable, became more withdrawn. He worked constantly, spending 6 months straight on set in 2025, completing filming for a fantasy period drama called Journey to the End of the Night in late June. He had 2 films waiting for release, The Fated General and Traditional Chinese Medicine. On the surface, everything looked fine. But beneath the surface, Yu Menglong was drowning. In the days leading up to his ending, Yu sent several messages to his mother. These weren't casual check-ins or updates about work. These were cries for help, and they paint a picture that's completely at odds with the official story authorities would later tell. One message read, "Mother, the money they transfer, I want to vomit. It's dirty money. I'm not joking. I'm not hallucinating. They may harm me." Read that again. He didn't say he was stressed about work. He didn't say he was tired or overwhelmed. He said people might harm him, and he described money as dirty. Then, just hours before his body was discovered, Yu sent what would be his final message. "I have to say goodbye now. They might take my life any time." Those aren't the words of someone who's planning to drink too much and accidentally fall from a building. Those are the words of someone who knows they're in danger and is desperately trying to warn the people they love. But who was they? Yu never named anyone specifically. He never explained what the money was for or where it was coming from. He just made it clear that he was terrified of something, or someone. Now let's talk about the night everything changed. On September 10th, 2025, the night before his body was discovered, Yu attended a private gathering at a friend's apartment in the Sunshine Upper East residential complex in Beijing's Chaoyang district. The complex was upscale, home to wealthy residents and celebrities. According to reports, about 12 to 16 people were at this gathering. To anyone watching from outside, it probably looked like a normal evening. Friends hanging out, nothing unusual. But people who were there later said Yu seemed off. He was tense, withdrawn, like something was weighing heavily on him. This was notable because Yu was known to have a low tolerance for alcohol, and he had a filming commitment scheduled for the next day. It wasn't like him to drink heavily before work. At some point during the evening, Yu separated himself from the group entirely. He went into a bedroom and closed the door. We don't know what he was doing in there or how long he stayed. We just know he isolated himself from everyone else. Then, in the early hours of September 11th, just after 2 in the morning, something happened. According to some accounts, witnesses heard a scream. Then, Yu fell from the building. But here's where things get complicated, because multiple versions of what happened next started circulating online. Videos that later appeared on social media seemed to show Yu being moved from Beijing's Bulgari Hotel to the residential complex where his body was ultimately found. Other footage allegedly showed him being dragged by several people, appearing weak and injured. Some clips reportedly captured voices demanding that he be forced to drink alcohol. None of these videos have been officially verified by authorities, but they spread widely enough to become part of the public narrative surrounding his case. At 6 in the morning, a resident walking their dog made the ugly discovery. Yu's body was lying at the base of the building in a pool of blood. Emergency services were called immediately, but there was nothing they could do. Yu Menglong was already gone. Police arrived at the scene. They conducted what they claimed was an investigation, and by late morning, less than 12 hours after Yu's body was discovered, authorities had their conclusion ready. They ruled his ending as an accidental fall caused by intoxication. No foul play. Case closed. 12 hours. For a case involving a famous person who had sent messages about fearing for his life. 12 hours to investigate, examine evidence, interview witnesses, and reach a definitive conclusion. Taiwanese lawyer Yan Ruqing, who later analyzed the case publicly, said it plainly. It's impossible to properly close an investigation like this in just 12 hours. The speed alone raises immediate red flags. And it wasn't just the speed that troubled people, it was what wasn't included in that investigation, or at least what wasn't made public. The surveillance footage from the building had been reportedly unavailable. Either it wasn't working, or it had been erased, depending on which account you believe. His autopsy results were never released to the public. Witness statements were also not made available. There was something else. According to claims that spread wildly online, hospital staff allegedly leaked surveillance footage from the emergency room. If accurate, the leaked information showed a disturbing timeline. Yu was reportedly brought to the hospital at 2:58 in the morning. By 3:12, resuscitation efforts had failed. He was already gone on arrival. At 3:20, his agency reportedly came to collect his belongings. And at 3:45, a masked woman was allegedly seen going through a trash bin outside the hospital. If this timeline is accurate, it raises a critical question. How did Yu's agency know to come collect his belongings at 3:20 in the morning if his body wasn't discovered by the dog walker until 6? 5 days after Yu's passing, on September 16th, his studio released a statement purportedly from his mother. In it, she said he had accidentally fallen after drinking alcohol. She mentioned that police had informed the family of their investigation findings, and she urged people to view the incident rationally and refrain from speculation. She asked that he be allowed to rest in peace. But here's the thing, his mother wasn't present at the scene when it happened. She was back home in Xinjiang when she got the news. So how could she make such definitive statements about what happened? Then, on September 21st, the Chaoyang branch of the Beijing Municipal Public Security Bureau issued an official police report. They reiterated that Yu's ending was accidental, that it occurred after drinking, and that they had ruled out any criminal activity. They said their investigation included on-site inspections, forensic examinations, interviews, and video surveillance. The family had been informed and raised no objections. But the statement didn't stop there. It announced that 3 women had been detained for fabricating and spreading false information online. One woman allegedly fabricated claims about the manner of his ending. Another allegedly spread rumors that surveillance was destroyed and that Yu's mother was being controlled. A third allegedly created fabricated videos. The message was crystal clear. Anyone spreading theories about Yu's case would face arrest. The reaction online was immediate and intense. People weren't buying the official explanation, especially after Yu's final messages became public. Social media users were demanding transparency, asking why the investigation had been closed so quickly, questioning every aspect of the official story. And just like the original morning posts, these questions started getting deleted systematically. Posts would go up and come down within minutes. Accounts that kept posting about the case got suspended. Hashtags were blocked or redirected to other content. It was censorship happening in real time, and it only made people more suspicious. Because here's the thing about trying to silence the internet. It usually has the opposite effect. People adapted. They moved to encrypted platforms like Telegram and Signals that Chinese authorities couldn't easily control. They developed code words to discuss the case without triggering censorship algorithms. They shared information on international forums. Every deletion, every arrest only convinced more people that something was being hidden. What they uncovered, or what they believe they uncovered, is far more disturbing than anyone initially imagined. Online investigators started identifying who else was at that gathering on September 10th. They compiled a list of roughly 16 attendees, and 2 names kept coming up in discussions before being scrubbed from platforms almost immediately. But we can't discuss specific allegations about individuals without verified evidence. So let's focus instead on the broader patterns that emerged. People online began investigating Yu's business connections, and what they found was shocking. According to reports that circulated widely, business registrations had been discovered in Yu's name. Not just one or two, but dozens of them. These weren't companies he had started or businesses he was running. They were registrations that used his name and phone number, tied to shell companies with vague or unclear purposes. Some of these companies had unusual classifications, categories like firearms and explosives. Why would an actor need his name on companies dealing with weapons? The obvious answer is he wouldn't, which suggests his identity was being used without his full knowledge or consent. This kind of thing isn't unheard of in China's entertainment industry. There's been long-standing scrutiny about how celebrity names and identities get used to legitimize business operations that aren't exactly above board. Essentially, you take a famous person's name and credentials, register companies under their identity, and suddenly your shell company looks legitimate. The celebrity might not even know it's happening until it's too late. If you discovered that his name was being used this way and found out he was unknowingly connected to illegal financial activity, it would explain his messages to his mother. It would explain the fear, the dirty money, the belief that people wanted to harm him. Some theories that circulated online took this even further. According to unverified claims, Yu allegedly discovered evidence of large-scale operations involving billions of yuan disguised as movie investments. The theory suggests that he gathered proof, recordings, documents, evidence of the network, and stored it on a USB drive. And this is where things get truly disturbing. Unverified audio recordings allegedly surfaced online. In one, voices could reportedly be heard demanding that Yu's stomach be cut open, with phrases like, "spit it out," and "cut open his stomach for me." Another audio file purportedly featured a weakened male voice thought to be Yu, with someone saying, "Don't worry, he won't pass." The theory goes that if Yu knew he was in danger, if he believed people were coming after him, he might have swallowed a USB drive containing evidence. At that September gathering, he allegedly refused to participate in the scheme anymore. He wanted out. He had the evidence. But if he went public with it, he wouldn't just expose money laundering. He could implicate powerful people connected to China's ruling elite. In this theory, Yu became a threat that needed to be eliminated. Again, these are unverified claims that circulated widely online. We cannot confirm their accuracy, and we must be clear about that. But the sheer volume of people who believe this version of events, combined with the aggressive censorship campaign that followed, tells us something important about how little trust exists between Chinese citizens and their authorities. There's another disturbing detail that emerged. In what appears to have been Yu's final live stream before his ending, some viewers noticed something unsettling. They reported seeing hand gestures that looked like distress signals, specifically what's known as the 540 signal, an internationally recognized sign that someone is in danger or being mistreated. The signal is subtle, designed to alert others without drawing attention from someone who might be causing harm. It involves specific hand movements that victims can make on camera to call for help. Beyond the hand signals, viewers said, Yu appeared to have visible bruising on his body, and according to some accounts, he made statements during the stream, suggesting that if something happened to him, people shouldn't believe it was an accident. He was trying to warn people, trying to leave evidence, trying to tell the world he was in danger using the only platform he had left. Then the stream cut off abruptly, just ended. And like so much else connected to this case, the video was later removed from platforms entirely. Now let's talk about what happened to his mother, because this might be one of the most unsettling aspects of the entire case. After Yu's passing, his mother came to Beijing to handle funeral arrangements. This is a woman who had received those desperate messages from her son, messages about dirty money, about threats, about fear and danger. The statement released on September 16th was attributed to her, asking people to accept the official explanation and stop speculating. But since then, she hasn't made any additional public appearances or statements. She's essentially disappeared from public view. Maybe she's grieving privately. Maybe lawyers advised her not to speak. But given the desperate messages her son sent her about fearing for his safety, her total silence has made people deeply suspicious. Online campaigns like the hashtag "Where is Yu Menglong's mother?" emerged, demanding to know if she's safe and free to speak. But like everything else, these hashtags faced heavy censorship. There's also the matter of what happened in the Sunshine Upper East complex itself after Yu's passing. According to claims that spread online, dozens of households in the building allegedly received substantial payments to remain silent about what happened that night. One alleged whistleblower claimed that residents received payments twice, with each payment totaling roughly 1 million yuan, about 140,000 US dollars. If this spread across dozens of units, the total would reach hundreds of millions of yuan. The same source claimed that one resident admitted to seeing Yu's body and later being paid tens of thousands of yuan, with instructions not to speak out. When asked if they heard anything that night, the resident allegedly replied that yes, there was an extremely loud sound like something falling, but property management told them it was just a family throwing things around, and not to worry. Other reports suggested that residents who considered speaking out received threats, red paint thrown at doors, car tires slashed. The message was clear: stay quiet. And what's undeniable is that, after Yu's passing, more than 100 households in the complex suddenly listed their apartments for sale. By October, that number had climbed to over 300 units, 15% of the entire complex. People wanted out. They wanted to leave a place where something terrible had happened, and when reporters tried to conduct on-site interviews, residents responded with near-uniform silence, refusing to speak and denying access to any surveillance footage they might have had. That synchronized silence only deepened public suspicion that residents had either been paid off or threatened into keeping quiet about what they knew. The censorship campaign that followed Yu's case was extraordinary in its scope and aggression. On Chinese social media platform Weibo, more than 100,000 posts deemed maliciously stirring negative emotions were deleted. Over 1,000 accounts were suspended or banned outright. Another 15,000 accounts had their commenting functions disabled. On the video platform Douyin, China's version of TikTok, more than 1,300 videos about the case were removed. Any mention of Yu's name became taboo. Searches for his name were blocked. Even similar-sounding words got censored. People had to use code words and symbols just to discuss his case without triggering automatic deletions. But the censorship extended beyond social media. Yu's name started disappearing from the projects he'd worked on. Fans noticed that his credit was being removed from show synopses, film descriptions, and promotional materials. Netflix reportedly removed his name from the cast listing for Eternal Love, the drama that had made him famous. It was as if the entertainment industry was trying to erase his existence entirely. This wasn't passive moderation. This was an aggressive, coordinated effort requiring significant resources and high-level authorization. Authorities framed it as part of a Clean Net 2025 campaign to combat rumor-mongering. But the scale of the operation suggested something much bigger was at stake. Yet despite all this effort, the story refused to die. In fact, the harder authorities tried to suppress it, the more attention it received internationally. Foreign media outlets picked up the story. Foreign Policy magazine ran a long feature examining the case, ending with a haunting question: if even a well-known figure like Yu Menglong can be erased from public memory so easily, what hope is there for ordinary Chinese people? The BBC openly questioned the credibility of China's official statement. Media outlets in Singapore, Taiwan, Australia, and other countries covered the case extensively. Analysts noted patterns they found deeply troubling: investigations closing too quickly, missing evidence, silenced witnesses, sustained censorship campaigns. An international petition was launched on the platform Avaz, calling for justice for Yu Menglong. Within weeks, it had gathered over 390,000 signatures from people around the world. People who had never heard of Yu before his passing were now demanding answers, calling for an independent investigation, insisting that his case represented something larger than one man's tragedy. And they were right. Because Yu's case highlighted fundamental questions about transparency, accountability, and what happens when official stories don't match the evidence. There's also what happened to people who tried to speak out. Hua Yu, Yu's close friend from the Happy Boys competition, found a subtle way to mourn at a music festival. He performed with stage visuals, showing a white figure falling, shattered glass, an hourglass, and scattered clock pieces. In the background, a hand reached out, as if trying to catch the falling figure. Fans immediately understood this was a tribute, but speaking out came with risks. Actor Li Tianchai, who urged attendees of that final gathering to come forward, received threats. Hua had his family background exposed online and personal data leaked. Yu's Taiwanese mentor, Sun Durong, who demanded justice publicly, received what appeared to be a timed threat. Posts on Chinese social media platforms predicting his passing in October. Fearing for his life, Sun issued an "I will not end myself" statement to protect himself from potential harm. The message was clear. Supporting Yu Menglong publicly came with real risks. Productions connected to people allegedly at the gathering faced delays or cancellations. Cast members from certain dramas faced intense scrutiny. Fans organized boycotts of content associated with anyone potentially involved. Property values near Yu's apartment building dropped as people avoided the area. Public distrust manifested physically. People didn't want to be near anything connected to the case, and the Bulgari Hotel, mentioned in some of the circulating accounts, saw its reputation affected, with its rating on review sites plummeting as people flooded it with negative comments. Meanwhile, Yu's management company, Tianyu Media, and its parent firm, Mango Super Media, saw their stock prices crash dramatically. According to financial reports, Mango's stock price plunged over 6% on October 9th and another 5% on October 10th, wiping out more than 7.67 billion yuan, over $1 billion in market value in just 2 days. Within weeks, high-level resignations began. Vice President Luo Zejun formally stepped down and no longer held any position with the company. The number of shareholders collapsed, falling by 28.9% in a single month. It was financial devastation triggered entirely by public outrage over Yu's case. Netizens summed up the reaction with one phrase that echoed across the internet: "Justice came fast." But did it really? Because while companies suffered financial losses and executives resigned, no one has been held accountable for what happened to Yu Menglong himself. The investigation remains officially closed. The official story, accidental fall due to intoxication, hasn't changed. And yet people haven't stopped searching for answers. In Los Angeles, overseas Chinese activists gathered on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, handing out flyers and setting up tents to call for justice for Yu Menglong. They chanted slogans demanding transparency and accountability. Large LED screens in multiple Chinese cities displayed Yu's image on loop, with the text, "I am Yu Menglong," and messages reading, "We're here on October 8th. Never abandon, never yield." It was a grassroots movement that crossed borders and cultures, united by the belief that Yu deserved better than what he got. Sun Derong, Yu's Taiwanese mentor, said that Yu appeared to him in a dream for 5 hours on the night of September 27th. He described Yu crying about the injustice of what had happened to him, clarifying details that had been misrepresented, and asking for help. Sun felt so guilty about bringing Yu into the entertainment industry that he vowed to find a way to honor his memory properly, despite the risks to his own safety. Even people who practice spiritual traditions claimed to have received messages. Psychics and mediums attempted to communicate with Yu's spirit. And while we cannot verify the authenticity of such claims, what they represent is significant. People so desperate for truth and justice that they turned to supernatural means when all earthly channels were blocked. It shows how completely trust in official systems had broken down. Now, we need to be very clear about something. Many of the theories, allegations, and claims surrounding Yu Menglong's case have not been independently verified. We cannot confirm the authenticity of leaked videos, audio recordings, or witness accounts that circulated online. We cannot prove that powerful people were involved, that evidence was destroyed, or that residents were paid to stay silent. What we can confirm are these facts. Yu Menglong passed away on September 11, 2025, after falling from a building in Beijing. Authorities ruled his ending as accidental due to intoxication within 12 hours. In the days before his passing, Yu sent messages to his mother expressing fear and mentioning dirty money. After his passing, an unprecedented censorship campaign scrubbed his name from Chinese internet platforms. 3 women were arrested for spreading information about his case. His mother disappeared from public view after one statement. Over 100 households in the building where he passed initially tried to sell their apartments, with that number later climbing to over 300. International media coverage questioned the official explanation. Nearly 400,000 people signed a petition demanding answers. These are the undisputed facts. Everything else exists in a gray area of claims, theories, and speculation. But here's what we know for certain about human nature. When authorities refuse to provide transparency, when evidence disappears and questions go unanswered, when people who ask for accountability face arrest, speculation fills the void. Trust erodes. and every action taken to suppress information only reinforces the belief that something is being hidden. So what really happened to Yu Menglong? Was it truly an accidental fall after a night of drinking, as authorities claim? If so, why the messages about dirty money and fear? Why the rapid investigation? Why the missing surveillance footage? Why the aggressive censorship? Or was something darker at play? Was Yu caught up in operations he never consented to? Did he discover something he wasn't supposed to know? Was his ending not accidental at all? We may never know the complete truth. The investigation is closed. The censorship continues. The official story stands. But the questions remain, unanswered and unanswerable, haunting everyone who followed this case. Menglong deserved better. If you think every person deserves transparency when their life ends under suspicious circumstances, then his story matters. Because accepting silence means accepting that some lives are worth less than others, that some endings don't deserve full investigations, and that power can operate without accountability. Yu Menglong may be gone, but the questions he left behind refuse to die, and maybe that's the most important legacy of all, the reminder that truth matters, that justice matters, and that we should never stop asking questions, no matter how powerful the force is trying to silence us. If you stand against systems that try to erase people when they become inconvenient, hit that like button. People who see censorship as an acceptable tool for oppression won't. Subscribe if you believe everyone deserves justice, not just the rich, powerful, and connected. Also comment, "Justice for Yu Menglong," if you believe his story deserves more attention, which will help uncover any foul play and bring the perpetrators to justice.
I want to thank you for watching this story to the end. If you enjoyed this story, you're going to love what's coming next. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell for instant updates on our latest videos. See you in the next one.